been interesting. For me, I was very separate from everybody else in the beginning of the season. My character was off in college, so I kind of felt like I was doing my own kind of like the Lip show. So I missed working with everybody and stuff. But then around episode 4 or 5, Lip comes home and trouble begins, and it's kind of back to the roots of kind of what the show's about, I think.
When we do see those early episodes where he is kind of at school and juggling that part of life, is he aware of what's going on at home? Like, does he know about Frank being sick? And
he's the only contact that he has is he has a few phone calls with Fiona and a few phone calls with Carl, and they kind of keep him posted on what's going on. But the way that the older Gallaghers, kind of just both Fiona and Lip, are feeling about Frank being sick is it's pretty mean. It's they have too much to deal with right now, and taking care of their sick father isn't one of those things. So at least for Lip and Fiona, that's not really a big part of their world in this season, is Frank being sick.
Is there opinion kind of that he's brought this on himself? Is that kind of where they're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, what did everybody think was going to happen? You know what I mean? When you do that to yourself, that's going to happen. And I think it's sad that they don't care more, and I think they do care, but it's just they're not able to fit that, into everything that's going on with them this season, I guess.
So how does he adjust to his school life? Does he throw himself into it, or is it a whole weird world for him to be a part of?
It's strange. It's he was always so negative about the idea of college, and I think that was because he was so comfortable and thrived so much in the environment, in Chicago and with his family and stuff like that, and it was he was a big fish in a small pond, and now he's going out into the real world, and he's realizing he's not the hot shit that he thought he was, and he actually has to study, for these tests, and he actually has to talk to these girls before he sleeps with them. So it's a bit of a rough adjustment when you pick up with Lip in school, but then he kind of starts to get his footing. And as soon as he really begins to start thriving again, all hell breaks loose back at home, and he has to come home and kind of save the day.
Hi, TVFanatic. When you're on a series from the pilot till season 4, you get to grow with it, and you get to really see changes. And this season really starts out with everyone being kind of in different places and doing their own thing, which is part of life because everyone's growing and there's growth. But it was very strange to even get scripts where we weren't fighting something together and going after, a mission together. It's a very different dynamic. So I think the audience will see, and I think they'll enjoy it because you do get to get involved with the characters' lives more intimately. But it's definitely separate things happening.
Okay. When we last left off,
yes,
there was a baby, but it was your mother.
You mean my mama baby?
Your mama baby.
My mama hubby baby.
Exactly. Which seemed like everybody was kind of like, okay, we can make this work. I'm guessing maybe it's not going to be that easy.
Well, is it ever on Shameless? It's never that easy on Shameless. I think that at the end of it, you saw Veronica sort of struggling with the fact that her mother was enjoying having sex with her husband. And she really wanted this baby so badly, so she would do anything, and she really wanted it for Kev. But it was very weird circumstances, and I think you'll see her kind of having to deal with what that means now. That they made this step, and now this is the results, and it sounded good in theory, but I think once the realization comes in, it's a whole different feeling. You have to remember, Kevin is a love bug. Kevin loves family. Kevin just wants a child. Kevin grew up in the foster system, so he just wants to be a good dad. So, and it's also very different because it is Kevin's sperm. You know, it is his baby. Women have a whole separate thing when they have no attachment. In that way, it's a different struggle, like almost like a failure, like you weren't able to give something, and yet I gave him my mother. So there's that. But I think he's just focused on being a good provider, and I think that's what happens with men. When they find out they're going to have their first child, they just focus on how am I going to provide, and you'll see a lot of that. You'll see a lot more depth with Kevin this season, which is nice.
And how does Veronica feel about the fact that Frank is dying? Does she have an opinion about it, or is she kind of busy?
I think she's so caught up in her own world. It's there. I also think that there's a part of it, especially at the beginning, where it doesn't feel real, because it's Frank.
Yeah.
Frank doesn't die. He's like a cockroach. You'll see Kev say a wonderful line about that, about Frank being like a cockroach. You could step on him, you could flush him, he's always going to come back. So it's not necessarily something that has hit them, especially at the beginning of the season, that Frank is really that ill. It's Frank.